Thank you, thank you. What a wonderful introduction. That's a lot that I'm gonna have to live up to, but I am rocking and ready to go. How are you guys enjoying ProfCon? Isn't it wonderful? So I've been at ProfCon 3 times now, but 2 of them were digital, virtual, whatever you wanna call that. And I am absolutely loving it. This space is so nice, and the information is just wonderful. So I am glad to be here with all of you, and I want to talk about something that is kind of controversial, right? So incorporating entrepreneurship into your marketing programs. The interesting part is, I know, how many of you guys teach marketing? Everybody, right? How many of you guys get the opportunity to teach entrepreneurship as part of your marketing? Awesome, I love it. So we're gonna have a great conversation because I'm gonna open it up and have a really interactive session. So I'm glad that I won't have to sell you guys on this idea as much as I prepared to sell you on it. So, did you know that according to Junior Achievement, a study they did in 2020, 66% of teens, that's 13 through 17, want to be entrepreneurs or they see entrepreneurship as a viable career. Did you guys know that? That's kind of a lot. Right? When I look at the youth in my life, I have a second cousin who I helped publish a book when he was like maybe 14. He came to me when he was about 11 and was like, these kids in my class, they think athletes, athletic pursuits are their only career option. I was like, okay, 11-year-old. He's like, we need to do something about that. I'm like, okay, Gene, what is it that you want to do about it? He's like, I want to write a blog, and I'm going to feature a different career path every month. And I was like, okay, do you know how to do that? He's like, no, of course not. That's what you're for. And I was like, oh, okay. So it's starting, right? Younger and younger and younger. People are thinking like, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to have my own business. So what does that mean for us as professors? We're not there yet. We'll get there though. 54% of Gen Z surveyed indicate that they want to start their own company, right? That means that over half of the youth that are coming up that we get to look forward to in 10 years or so, and half or over half of the students in our classes right now want to be entrepreneurs. That's a lot. Historically, especially like when I was in marketing as a young person, years and years and years ago, we weren't taught that way. It was, hey, this is what you do. You sit in your cubicle, you have a boss, and you do what they tell you to do. Not, hey, you can go start your own business. Do what you want to do. Chase your passion, right? Anybody know the gig economy? Yeah, it's a whole thing, little thing, right? So let's look at entrepreneur in the US. Sorry for our Canadian friends in the room. I couldn't find the statistics for Canada yet. So 31.7 million small businesses. All right, the government plays a little fast and loose with how they define small, but that's a pretty big number. 31.7 million. 63% of adults see entrepreneurship as a viable career option. What does that mean now? The student is coming to your class, their mom and dad is gonna endorse, they're gonna approve of entrepreneurship. It's not gonna be like that, I'm not gonna call anybody out, artist. Not gonna be like those humanities, those philosophy majors that never get a job and they end up working at CVS. No. Your entrepreneurship people, they're like, yes, you can get a job. You go do that. Hey, yeah, stay in my basement while you get your crowdfunding going, right? 55% of adults have started a business. How many of you guys have a business? Look at that. These statistics ringing true. Yes. Nailed it. 26% have at least 2 or more businesses in their lifetime. What does this mean? We are literally entrepreneurs. We'll throw in Canada. Canada and the US breeds entrepreneurship, right? But why are we not integrating this into our curriculum from an end-to-end perspective? We have to be inclusive of entrepreneurship as we're looking at everything. Everything needs to go through that entrepreneurship lens. Interestingly enough, how many of you guys read job descriptions? It's not so many, but let me tell you, entrepreneurial skills and mindset, that's always listed. Do they actually want that? That's debatable. We'll talk about that after the session. But they say they do, right? And that's the important part. So we have to equip students to be able to market to that, right? When I was in undergrad, I will not mention the year. I do look young, but it was a while ago. It was on every job description in marketing, right? They catch all stuff. Like when I was coming out, I was trying to get an internship at Turner Broadcasting. And I was like, well, I do graphic design, but I also do marketing. She was like, no, you got to pick one. And I was like, why? That's preposterous. 3 years later, every single job description was like, oh yeah, and if you could do graphic design too, that'd be awesome. I wanted to message her on LinkedIn so badly. Did I really need to pick? Doesn't seem like I did. But a lot of those job descriptions are also saying, oh, we want somebody that's entrepreneurial focused, that think about things from an entrepreneur's perspective. What does that really mean though? How do we apply that, right? What are we doing as faculty members to help students with entrepreneurial thinking, right? We're thinking about problem solvers, right? If you think about an entrepreneur, you don't have any money, you spent all your money, what are you gonna do? You're gonna figure it out. Right? We want problem solvers. We want that end-to-end thinking. We don't want that person that's just sitting in the cubicle and they don't care about anything else. They're like, well, look, I scheduled my post. What happens after that? I don't know and I don't care. Right? We don't want those people from sales coming to marketing and be like, you're giving me horrible leads, and marketing be like, well, I don't know. I did my job. That's all I got for you. Right? We want people that are actually going to problem solve and that are going to think about the big picture. What is needed for today? What is on my to-do list now? And what's on my to-do list later? So looking at that big picture is why employers are wanting that. So if students want to do it, employers want them to do it, parents are okay with it, what does that mean for us as educators? That's your turn. That's your cue. We have to do it, right? So now it's our responsibility to help equip students so that they can be competitive in the marketplace and they can be versatile to do entrepreneurship or be an employee or both. Don't tell their boss though, all right? So how do we do this? By establishing a holistic picture, right? It's not just about that social media post that I'm helping you craft with ChatGPT. It's not about that one blog. It's about how does that blog feed into the sales pipeline, to feed into the sales funnel, right? We need to know, why is our chief revenue officer down our neck? As a marketer, we have to think about all of these things. And then, of course, integrating that theory with the application, because we don't only want them to know the marketing, we don't want them to know the 4 Ps, we want them to know how that applies to the overall business. We talk about new product development. Can R&D do their job without marketing? Then marketing gets something at the end of I'm reading a book called Winning at New Products. And they were like, yeah, you got a tech guy come in and they do something, and then at the end, it's like the marketer has to market and they have no idea what to do. It's a whole thing, right? We all need to be involved in all steps of the process. Entrepreneurial marketing is a whole thing. Did you guys know that? It's coming out in the literature. Is, academics can sometimes be behind. Don't tell them I said that. All right. So entrepreneurial marketing is literally defined as an orientation as well as a process of passionately pursuing opportunities and launching and growing, that's not well written, ventures that create perceived customer value through relationships by employing innovativeness, creativity, selling, market immersion, networking, and flexibility. Whew, that's a mouthful, right? Basically, we want to teach students how to do all the things, right? Think about the value that we're providing. Think about your individual thing. Be able to be creative. We were talking about this earlier today at something. Are students able to be creative now? Like pushing them to be creative, but how do we actually do that as faculty members? How do we challenge them? All right, so as we look, this is an article that is talking about entrepreneurial education and how we actually integrate that from a student interest perspective. Now we know students are interested. Now we have to connect the dots. So trying to help them with adaptability, right? As an entrepreneur, you have to be adaptable. One way that I do this is with improv exercises in class. Students love it and they hate it all at the same time because I put them on the spot, right? Stand up. They're like, wait, what? I'm not just gonna sit here and listen to you? No, you're not. It's your turn to talk. Stand up, find a person that you don't know, Spend 30 seconds introducing yourself and come back and know something interesting about them. What does that simulate for you guys? Does that sound familiar? Right? We're doing that this whole weekend, right? We're learning, we're talking to new people, we're finding out about them, we're starting up a conversation and building a relationship from thin air. We have to pass that on to our students. So one way I do that is improv. Then I'll put up cases, I'll put up scenarios on the board. Super simple exercise. I said, all right, we have, we're talking about ethics, right? So I put up this paragraph on the bullets, they're not gonna read. Put up bullets on the board. You are a sales manager. You are a marketing manager. You're interviewing for a new position. Jasmine, AKA Jazz, seems perfect. Perfect. Has all the experience that you want. However, she's had 2 jobs, she's changed jobs a lot, right? Last 5 years, she has a few jobs. Is that good? Is that bad? You're like, oh, that sounds bad. Your team is mixed, right? She came to the group interview. Half of them say hire, half of them say don't. Management said it's up to you. Do what you want. We trust you. We'll back your play. Now it's on you. What do? Do you hire her?
Yeah. Why? Because you can always fire them if they're not any good later.
You want the real answer?
Is that the real answer?
That's an answer. No, as far as hiring somebody, I'm more than willing to give somebody a shot, and I don't look at switching jobs a lot as a negative in my opinion.
It's not. Millennials are said to change jobs every 2 years. So if you have a Gen Z that's in charge of a millennial, you better know they're probably going to be gone in 18 months, right? If you don't, especially if you don't treat them right. Gen Z is, millennials are non-committal like that. They have no love, no loyalty. I'm joking. I'm a millennial. But so I put them in that hot seat, right? And I put them on the spot. Put them in groups, said, all right, solve the problem. And then I wait. And one student's like, nah, Professor Riley, this sounds crazy. She's doing too much. She's not gonna be loyal here. She's not gonna stay here. I said, how do you know that? Well, she changed jobs all the time. Okay. Well, what if this was you? Would you want to be hired? It's like, well, yeah, I'm gonna stay. Maybe. I said, but you want the shot. You want the opportunity to stay. He was like, well, yeah. And I said, well, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna assess it? He was like, I'm gonna call all her old bosses. See if I could dig up some dirt. I was like, sir, that is so illegal. We're not gonna do that. But having them problem solve right there in the room with you is super effective because you put them in the driver's seat. You're not thinking as an employee anymore at that point in time. You have a stake in the game. You have skin in the game. You're trying to figure out, how do I assess if this person is a good fit, if I should invest in this person? Flipping the script on them. Instead of saying, well, how are you gonna land this job? What skills do you have? Now you put them in the driver's seat and they are in control of the situation and they can think through that. So when they're out in the world, whether they're an employee or an entrepreneur, they have that experience that they can lean on to say, these are the problems that we've come in contact with. And that's just a random in-class exercise that followed up on a case that we were talking about that has those problems, right? Understanding and assessing opportunities, right? When we talk about the expansion of opportunities, the assessment, if you say, hey, what business do you want to start, right? How many of you guys do marketing plans? Do they do it for a new business or their own business or existing business? Both, right? You want to do it for both. I push my students. I had a student in marketing management. And I was like, okay, y'all have to do a marketing plan, but it has to be your own business. It cannot be an existing business. She's like, Dr. Riley, I don't want to be an entrepreneur. I was like, okay, that's fine. You don't have to. Nobody's forcing you to be an entrepreneur. She's like, but why I have to do this? I don't want to be an entrepreneur. I was like, because it's good practice, right? Job markets are unstable. You need that experience. You need to think through the process of what skills do you have that you can monetize. If you don't know what value you provide, to other humans, are you really hireable? I hear you saying that you just want to work for other people, but I want more for you. Whether you do it or not, I want you to think through what value you could provide. And putting students on the spot with that stumps them every time. Because they're like, wait, you're not going to tell me everything to do? Nope. Wait, does it have to be a certain type of business? Nope. Just needs to be legal. That's all I ask. She runs 3 businesses now. I message her like every day. Every time I see her post on social media about her businesses, I'm like, well, that's interesting. But seeing those opportunities, right? We're not saying you have to be the next Google. We're not saying you have to be the next Amazon, but pushing them outside of their comfort zone. Yes, you do a marketing plan, but I want you to also think about the finance perspective. Think about this as a CEO. Let's broaden that a little bit for a whole business plan instead of just a marketing plan. How are you going to actually go to market with this product? Are you doing a product, a service, intellectual property? How many of you guys have students that are like, I'm just going to make an app and then sell it? I'm like, okay, but you need a team. You're gonna have to manage some stuff. Like, let's talk about this. What does that look like? What's your hiring process? What's your firing process, right? Having them think end to end, it sounds super simple, right? It's like, oh, make them think. Yeah, that'll work. But also, it's like specific prompts to make them think, right? How does this impact the bottom line? How does this impact the overall business? What happens when you don't get funding? How many of you guys think your students will know what bootstrapping is? You think they would? You got a lot of faith in your students. I like that. You taught them that? You taught them what it is? That's why you think. Okay, I'll give you that. That's fair. But sometimes students think, I had a student tell me once, he's gonna be a millionaire in 5 years. I was like, that's super optimistic. You are a sophomore right now. I said, how much do you make now? I don't know. Sir. I said, okay, you work retail, right? Retail, back then, $18,000 a year if you're working part-time. Do you know how to get to $36,000 next year? No. How you think you're gonna get to $1 million in 5? If you can't figure out how to double your revenue in a year, how do you think you're gonna scale so much in 5? Right? I'm not telling him that he can't. I'm saying you need a tangible plan, right? We can't run from numbers. We can't just have them do the gushy, cool social media stuff. We can't just make them do email marketing. We have to have them think about all the things. What's your most viable product, right? What's your MVP? What are your product extensions look like? How would that impact your runway? Do you have cash? Do you need to raise cash? Right? All things that they don't really want to think about in marketing classes, you make them think about it, so you ask them those questions. And then it becomes, okay, instead of just this plan that I'm passing along to someone else or that I'm executing, but I'm not really looking, like nothing is impacting me personally for my individual job, you have them think about the entire landscape of it, right? So we have... And I mean, taking risks, yeah, it's something that they never want to do, but they always need to, right? You want to teach them how to do those things. So these are the facets of entrepreneurial marketing as per the literature, all right? So, but a lot of students don't want to take that plunge, right? They're like, well, it's much safer to just go get a job. And I'm like, well, technically, you have to have at least 2 streams of income at this point to really live, right? In Atlanta, 1,800 square foot apartment is like $3,500 right now. It's crazy, right? You have to have multiple streams of income. How do you operationalize your skills to be viable as income based? So some of them want a partner, right? 30% are indicating that they want a partner or mentor. How do I do that? I pair them up and I make them work in a team. They hate it. They hate it. But I do something a little bit different. So I have students work on a team. I assign their teams so they don't get to work with all their buddies. Or I had all the athletes get on one team and make the poor, unsuspecting young lady do all the work. We're not doing that. I'm assigning the teams, and it's not going to be you just sit there and you relax, right? Everybody has to turn something in. I get one document that I'm going to grade. Everybody else does a group dynamics assessment. You answer 5 questions that change for every assignment, and then your grade depends on how honest your group assessment is. Y'all follow me there? That way, the actual work that they submit, that's your baseline grade. And it only goes down from there. No, it goes up. It could go up, right? So I have one student that's like, Johnny didn't do anything at all. Me, Rashandria, Bob, and Mark did everything. This is the breakdown of what everybody did. They will snitch on each other in a heartbeat, let me tell you. So then I look at it and okay, well, you get extra because you were honest. All of their peers say, oh, everybody pulled their weight. It was equal. We all deserve extra credit, because that's the question that gets them. Those 5 questions that they fill out, one of them is, who went above and beyond and deserves extra credit? It's me, I do. Because everybody else didn't do anything. And that's when you really catch them. So then 4 people say he didn't do anything, you know he probably didn't do anything. He's like, oh, I did everything by myself. Did you really? All of your peers say something different. But that teaches them not only about partnerships in business, but also that sometimes your team members are not going to do what you want them to do. One of the hardest things I've ever had to do is try to motivate other people when I don't have any card to hold over them. How do you find a way to motivate them? I had a student missed all the group dynamics assessments. He was like, we turned it in, didn't we? Well, you don't even know if y'all turned it in. There's that. So I'm like, yeah, they turned it in, but you didn't turn in anything. But I did. I worked on it, though. I said, I told y'all at the beginning of the semester, my assumption is if you don't submit anything, you did not do anything, right? We're holding them accountable. As an entrepreneur, I have a student. This child comes in late every single day. It's a 50-minute class. She comes in 30 minutes late. I said, what's happening? Come here. We need to talk. She said, well, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, so it's okay. That's the time when it's not okay. You think you're going to have that client after you could repetitively don't show up? They're going to fire you. A lot of students say they want to do entrepreneurship because they can't have a boss. I don't know why that's a thing. I think it's going through social media or something. I was like, as an entrepreneur, everybody is your boss. If you can't work with a team of 5 people successfully, how are you going to be an entrepreneur? How are you going to be an effective employee, right? That duality of that repetition to make them think about things over and over. Like I said, subtle things within the classes that you can do to put that in their minds and equip them better for the future. 51% said they want more information on what it would take to be successful. Me too. Do we ever have all the information of what it takes to be successful? That's a risk-averse person right there. But if they go and they're an employee and they've been thinking end to end this whole time that they're getting their degree and that they're in these marketing classes, it helps them contribute much more effectively. All right? So traditionally, it's in management, but I think it belongs in marketing. Entrepreneurship definitely belongs in marketing, and I'm happy to see so many of you all doing entrepreneurial things in your marketing and or teaching entrepreneurship as a part of your marketing program. So let's look at it from both perspectives. As an employee, you're minimizing your risk, but you still have the opportunity to make a meaningful contribution, right? Because this is how we've always done it is not an effective strategy. We want people that think differently, so we have to teach our students, this is how you think differently. Look at this and let's assess it. They think I'm joking when I ask them for feedback. I'm like, no, how would you do this differently? I put one student on the spot in the fall. He was like, yeah, I'm taking a negotiations class right now, but I don't really like it. I said, okay, why not? He's like, I just feel like we don't have any skin in the game. It's not hard enough. I said, okay, well, what do you design the class? He was like, what? I said, fix it. Don't just bring me problems. Now, I was not teaching the class. He was taking the class with somebody else. I was like, I hear you, but how are you gonna fix it? Well, if our grades were tied to our negotiation, then I'd be more motivated to do something. I'm like, okay, fair enough. What happens when this goes wrong? Oh, I don't know. Think about it. Think through it, right? That end-to-end thinking. Think through the problems. You're not only bringing problems to your supervisor, you bring them problems with some solutions that you've already researched, that you've already thought out. By putting them on the spot and having them do more of this in classes, we're helping them prepare for their future, whether it's as an employee or an entrepreneur. It also helps them be more competitive in the hiring process. How many of you guys want a critical thinker in your class? They challenge you, but that's good because you're not sitting there talking to yourself, right? Think about these things. Talk to me. And you could do that in more than just a case-based class. I use a lot of examples and say, okay, what was the problem with this? Why did that not work? Looking at, what is it, Periscope? You remember that? That social media app? Why is that dead now? Let's talk about it. From their business model, fundamentally from the business model all the way to their actual marketing. Let's look at this and tell me, like, let's talk through it. Why didn't it actually work? If they're thinking like an owner, but they're contributing as an employee, I doubt they'll be fired for not thinking and talking in the 6 months, like your students had that experience. And as an entrepreneur, the fun part is you can do both, right? As easy as having an Etsy shop for something that you create after a stressful day. I have friends that do that. She knits blankets when she's stressed, and somebody at her job is on her case, and she sells them on Etsy. It's passive income, but she's still an entrepreneur, all right? Contribute to the job market as an employer. 51.7% of million small businesses. They have to hire somebody, right? Response to changing workplace norms. When COVID happened, that put a lot of people out of work. If they would have had a second income, they could have supplemented some things. It would have been a different experience for them. Some people like the career flexibility, and then of course that empowerment and control. Putting students in the seat to say, you make the decisions. This is your deliverable that you need to control, and see what happens. So some program integration that can happen, entrepreneurial marketing, to fuse that entrepreneurship mindset and marketing through a marketing lens. Introduction to entrepreneurship being housed in the marketing department, kind of that holistic business thinking from conception to go to market. And then of course, new product development. It's a lot of marketing principles within new product development. Not only what do we need, but how are we actually going to apply it, right? How are we going to actually go to market with this? We're not letting R&D do their thing because we know engineers will go off the rails if ever given the opportunity. We had a couch on wheels going through campus. That's the engineer part, man. I don't know. I see your face. I don't know what they were thinking. Why does this couch need to be automated? And then you're gonna bring this to my marketing department and want me to market this? Are you kidding me? Nobody needs that, right? New product development, helping them see what's actually needed out in the market, assess how to make things better, how to build that value, and then how to go to market to use all of their marketing techniques, all right? The entrepreneurship courseware that Stu and I launched last summer does a lot of this, so you could adopt it in those 3 previous classes. It sets that foundation. Students literally go from conception of, hey, I see a lot of stuff about entrepreneurship on social. Do I actually want to do that? What's the entrepreneurship mindset? Not in a way that's going to deter them or discourage them, but just in a, hey, just be aware of it, right? And then it all goes all the way to, okay, now that I have a business, how do I actually scale that business? How do I grow that business? The lesson plans are easy for you, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Tuesday, Thursday. So short classes and long classes all built out already, as well as a flipped classroom plan. How many of you guys do flipped classrooms? Awesome, I love to see it. You do stuff in class, you let them read on their own, etc. And then you have the simulation that's attached to it, but it provides that holistic business thinking of, I'm thinking about it from a finance perspective, I'm thinking about it from an accounting perspective, I'm thinking about it from a consumer perspective and an HR perspective to see every vertical in the business. They also get to follow Jasmine Abrams. She's in their shoes, or shortly, a little bit. She just graduated, right? She's going through and she's trying to figure her life out. And students get to work with her in worksheets to help her craft her business idea, help her choose a name and a logo and all those branding things that are marketing, that are also entrepreneurship, right? Pricing of products, those 4 Ps, all through entrepreneurship. Pivoting to based on customer needs. What happens when you get a bad review? Then you have to go to sales, then you have to go to marketing, then you have to go up the chain. So it does all of those things, and they get that interaction and follow that protagonist throughout the book to really help reinforce those principles, okay? So, you can't do a new class, that's no problem. Extend your marketing projects to make sure that you're looking at holistic considerations for all sides of the business. Challenge them to use their own ideas and then apply the marketing concepts that you're teaching them within that. And then, of course, increase awareness so they have considerations for their decisions. Okay, I'm out of time. Thank you, guys. You've been wonderful.